Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to our church meeting. Excited to have you guys here. This is something we're supposed to do annually. This is actually our first one, even though we've been incorporated for like a year and a half. I don't know if I should have said that on record because that could get us in trouble with the state, but I think we'll be okay. So kind of format for today, we're just going to give a brief financial overview. Nicole's going to come up, give a talk, just kind of let everybody know where finances are at, kind of how that situation's playing out. And then Kristen, or here, is going to give us kind of an elder update. Every year, our elder board writes a visioning letter, and that visioning letter is supposed to kind of set the direction for the church for the year. And so that one's been in place for about 6 months now, and I'll let Kristen kind of talk that through on how that works and everything there. And at the very end, Seth is going to give kind of a brief update on our partnership with CUCC. I think there's a little bit of confusion in the room about what's kind of going on there and how everything's been going down. So we just wanted to kind of set the record straight, kind of put our cards on the table and let everybody know kind of what we're thinking with that partnership as it currently sits today. So with that, I will invite Nicole up to come give a financial update, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Hey. Hello, I'm back. Okay, so this is just kind of a snapshot of what our finances look like. We value transparency and honesty, and so we're just trying to be fully honest with everybody and let you all know where we're at. So this is our current financial situation right now. You can see this is how much we have total in the bank. We've put aside about $25,000 in savings, which I think was about 6 months or so worth of our expenses as sort of like an emergency fund. Then we have a benevolence fund, which has $500 in it. That is it's non-rolling over, so there's only ever $500 in there, but then once it gets used up, it replenishes to another $500 from like the general fund. And also, people can donate directly to the benevolence fund.
It gets topped up at the end of the month.
It gets topped up at the end of the month. Yes, that's a good way of saying it. Thank you. And then we have about $346 in advertising, which right now we're mostly using for putting advertisements in the Daily Evergreen, the WSU newspaper, and then occasionally some other random things like printing posters and stuff like that. We currently have about $2,900 in monthly recurring income through tithes, and our current monthly overhead is about $4,200. Yes, that is, yes. Okay, so next slide. This is our current budget. I am also available, and anybody else on the board of directors is available to talk with anybody about any questions they have after this. I'm not going to go into like a bunch of depth on this, but this is the things that we spend on every month for the most part. Some of them are a little less than monthly expenses. And then at the bottom here, again, you can see our monthly overhead versus our monthly income. So we're running at about a $1,200 deficit a month right now, which is a little bit of a newer situation. You'll see in a minute, but our tithes have kind of decreased a little bit over the last few months. So next slide is good. Okay, this is our monthly budget just in a pie chart form. So you can see we spend the vast majority of what we bring in to try to pay Elle. It's still not nearly how much we would like to pay her, but that is where most of our funds go to, and then the rest goes to smaller things, rentals, insurance, health insurance. That may not be updated, actually. This pie chart may not be updated because there's just a change in Elle's health insurance and how much we will be paying for that. So I'm not 100% sure this is accurate at the moment for the health insurance, but the rest of it is. Next slide. Okay, this is the one that I was talking about. I apologize to anybody like Seth who is bothered by the fact that these are not uniform. I tried to change it and I couldn't. So these, the blue is recurring gifts. So this is people who set up a recurring tithe through the service that we use, which is no longer called Rebel Give. What's it called now? Nucleus, thank you, Nucleus, which you can do through our website. So these are the ones that are just like draft every month from people. That's the same amount typically every month, or sometimes like twice a month or something like that. And then the red are all one-time gifts. You can see we've had a few spikes of one-time gifts in there. Yeah, this is from when we started. So March of 2021 through July of 2023. That's when this data is for. So next one, thank you. This is recurring monthly giving. You can see, so this is only the recurring ones. This is not including the one-time gifts. You can see we had a pretty sharp increase initially, and then it kind of peaked in 2022 and has kind of slowly come down, and it's actually come down a little bit more than that since then. Okay, and then this is one-time gifts, again, just separately. So again, you can see we kind of have like a few spikes. Sometimes people give one-time gifts at the end of the year. That is very common. Sometimes people, for whatever reason, have excess money and decide, hey, I'm going to give a big gift to the church. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, yes. Question.
Grant money considered one-time gifts? This is just
This is all individual gifts from individual people. None of this is grant money. We have, to my knowledge, never received grant money. Yes, we have gone through various parts of processes to get grant money, but never ever completed a process for that for various reasons. Yeah. Okay. So this is yearly spending just for the year 2020, the calendar year 2021. Again, largely salaries and then a few other expenses. Next slide is good. This is 2022. Again, largely salary, some other expenses. 2023, the reason this one looks so different, salaries look so small, is because this is for January through July of 2023. And because the state of Washington was incredibly slow giving Elle her maternity leave, paying her for maternity leave, because she went on maternity leave October of 2022, and they did not pay her until like February, I think it was, and we chose to not let her have a newborn and also no income. So we kept paying her until through January, and we just shifted when we decreased her salary, and so that's why it looks so small there. So she still did get the same salary between the state and us. It just looks really small.
only age crackers.
Yes. Okay, and then so this is salary over time. Mostly pastoral salary, which at this point is only Elle. And then towards the end there, we hired George and started paying him as our Sunday school teacher, childcare person. He takes care of the little ones. And the yellow is bonuses. So you can see just the blue. And then for those months of maternity leave pay, it wasn't actual maternity leave, but maternity leave pay, I used the yellow to represent the difference that the state paid her. So slow increases and also nowhere near what we want to be paying her over time. Okay, next slide. And then this is salary versus recurring monthly income. On a graph, the spikes are including the bonuses. That's why those look weird. But overall, you can see, go back. Overall, you can see the trend. They're kind of coming closer together, and as of right now, I do think they're swapped. I do think that the salary is actually above, maybe about the same right now as the recurring monthly income. And we also have other expenses, so that's obviously slightly problematic. Okay, next one. So moving forward, so our stated goal when we hired Elle was to pay her $60,000 a year. We are about halfway there, which sucks. We don't like that. We want to be able to pay her as much as we can. Obviously, we're limited by how much we're bringing in. We have talked about potentially looking retrospectively at giving, because some people do only give like once a year or a couple of times a year, as opposed to just looking at that recurring monthly income, as that might not be a totally accurate idea of what we're bringing in. And then it might have been on the budget slide, but if you have questions about the salary and why it says that it's 70% of our income, and that's not the case, obviously right now that's not the case, because we have had a decrease in our monthly tithe that's coming in, and we opted to not decrease Elle's salary since we have some money in the bank to kind of back us up for a little bit. But our original plan had been until we could pay her the amount we said, we would kind of lock her salary in at 70% of our income. And we currently do a budget and salary review about once a month at every board meeting. So, and if you have any questions, like I said, you can ask me or anybody else on the board of directors. I think you're up next.
All right, so for those online, some ways to ask questions of any of the presentations you're seeing. I kind of missed this. the leadership group will be going to lunch at Lumberyard after this, so people are welcome to kind of come hang out with us, and we can have more frank and open discussions than like this forum can provide during that time if you guys would like. For those online, please feel free to reach out and set up a Zoom call with one of the leaders or any of that kind of stuff. Whoever you feel comfortable with communicating with, I think anybody on the leadership team would be happy to chat and have those conversations with you.
And if
Yes.
lunch today doesn't work, contact us and we can go coffee or something.
Yeah, definitely. Since I'm talking to the mic, if lunch doesn't work today, contact one of us and we'll grab coffee or something like that and chat through stuff. Next up is Kristen.
Okay, this is, sorry, I have to balance opening my phone.
Do you want the
I'll be okay, thank you. Hello, I'm Kristen, and I am representing the elder team. I have a letter that we wrote in February that we're supposed to read at the annual meeting. So because A, that was over 2 pages, and B, a lot of it is past, like it's November now. So I left out a lot of the stuff that isn't relevant anymore, and so I have a summary. If you would like to read the whole letter in its entirety, we can absolutely provide that. Just holler at us, and I will just read the summary today. It's still like a page and a half, so bear with me. This is the Refuge Church Pullman Elder Team Vision Statement for 2023, written February 12th of 2023. In 2023, the elders of Refuge Church determined to continue to pursue their vision statement, which is to provide a safe space for those on the Palouse who might feel disenfranchised from the larger church to ask questions and grapple with their faith in community. We are determined to pursue this vision through the modalities of sermon and worship, group discussion, community events, and public service. So those are like my paragraph points here. So the elders have resolved several subjects appropriate for preaching in 2023, which you heard throughout the course of 2023. Additionally, we decided on some dates that Elle would be out of town because she intends to open up the pulpit in order to maintain her own well-being, to grant other preachers the opportunity to hone their skills, and to encourage the congregation to learn from other voices. So that's Sunday sermon and worship. For discussion, our group discussion continues to pursue the vision statement by upholding the following intentions. We made a list, and so some of this is my summarization, and it's a little clunky, but we made a list of aspirations for the group discussions, which included, but is not all of them, to maintain an open and non-judgmental space that welcomes all people. The group discussion values questions and wrestling over easy answers. We love through listening and curiosity over quick suggestions. And further, we hope to equip our church leadership and discussion leaders with awareness, information, and tools. Jumping to community events, the goal of Refuge Church's community events are to inspire more full and authentic relationships between community members and to provide a platform for new connections which may not have formed in our regular service meetings. We do not aspire to create programming which takes the centermost focus in our community members' lives. And then we made a list of events which were our goal to put on in 2023. We met some of those goals and we also didn't. So we recently made an unofficial party planning committee, and if you have events that you want to see us put on, you can message me or Ryan, and we'll make our best effort to do that. Okay, so for community and a little bit more on that benevolence fund that you heard Nicole talk about. While Refuge Church has taken deliberate, if spontaneous, steps in previous years to bless folks in our community, the leadership team has jointly determined that a cohesive push toward community service would put the character of God on display and be life-giving to some members of our community. The eldership team recognizes that there is a wonderful diversity of passions and skill sets within our community and does not seek to mandate participation in a single campaign of public service. However, they do wish to institute a new two-pronged approach to public service at Refuge Church. Firstly, while the eldership team is in agreement that the focus of Refuge Church should not become insular, we do concur that there would be something amiss if we poured the resources of Refuge Church into public projects while ignoring the needs of our own community members. So, in accordance with Acts 2:47, we aspire to, quote, distribute these things to all to the degree that anyone had need, unquote. The eldership team proposes the opening of a regular benevolence fund and outlined concrete steps to achieve that goal, which we did, but I'm not going to read them all to you. We have them if you want them. Secondly, while the eldership team affirms that to ignore the needs of our community members would be out of line with our values, an outward focus toward our larger Pullman-Moscow community also behooves the people of God. I think Elle wrote this. The eldership team also acknowledges the limitations of time, energy, and resources of the community members of Refuge Church and does not wish to place an undue burden on those with full lives, careers, young kids, student obligations, previous standing volunteer commitments, and other responsibilities by setting too high of an expectation of regular participation in a joint partnership with an existing organization. Therefore, we suggest several ways to make that happen, which we did, and you can read more about ways that we wanted to do community events and community service together. Then that's the summary. Okay, the elders of Refuge Church affirm the importance of following through on all the previous items listed and look forward to walking out our calling in community with joy and dedication to excellence. L. Grover Fricks, Anna Forrest, George Fricks, Emily Cesnon, and Kristen Grayson. Boom. So to add something to that, specifically for our benevolence fund, one of the parameters that we set up is we wanted to have a committee, and that wasn't necessarily a leadership only committee. So if you are interested in being more involved in how our benevolence works, then we are looking for people who would be on a committee who can take in those requests and determine the need and basically, as a team, decide how and when we're going to give out those benevolence funds. We think it's super important to provide for the people in our community, kind of like we were just talking about with the Year of Jubilee and stuff like that. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the people in our community. So if you have interest in that, come talk to me or Elle after the service and we can connect you with that. So I think that that's everything I was supposed to talk about. Yes? Great.
Yay. I realized a quick brief overview on governance structure for the church is probably useful for people who don't understand what how that looks. So our church is kind of set up with a couple tiers, nothing overly formal, but from state requirements, we have a board of directors, which is, just say raise your hands if you're on board. I was trying to remember who's on the board of directors, and Tyler, who is not here. So that board of directors, the thought there is they're the implementers of the vision you just heard. So there are people who are responsible for voting decisions. They spend the money, and they help make the things happen, I think, is kind of the way the board's set up. Elders are kind of a visioning team in the sense that they're a group that gets to dream big about what the church wants to do and kind of be the spiritual guiders of the church, if that makes sense. And so is that, would you like to, am I misrepresenting something?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I wanted to make a clarifying comment about the benevolence conversation. Okay, so clarifying comment about the benevolence versus the community service. Those are like two sides of a coin because one is inward looking, taking care of our people, and one is outward looking, wanting to be engaged in the community. Those are different things. So benevolence is focused on here, and then the stuff you heard about not wanting to coerce everybody into a singular community project is like, forcing everybody who considers themselves members to show up at a particular highway cleanup or whatever wasn't something that we wanted to put on people, but that we wanted to respond to things that different folks wanted to do. So that was what that component meant. Okay.
Yes, thank you. I would argue that for outreach and those kind of like fun activities that we would do, we are hoping that those would be born organically, not one of like church culture that's kind of like making everybody jump in and do things. Kristen would like to throw another comment.
So
in
like one of the particulars that I cut out of the letter was that there was a goal to have 2 outreach events that would be like community work party kind of style events, and that we were hoping that 2 would kind of come organically. One of the things that we did out of the benevolence fund was it's not just financial, but if like I need help raking all my leaves and putting them in garbage bags because I have a huge yard and have not enough time or ability, then that was something that would fall under the benevolence and kind of community project. But anyway, does that answer?
Yeah, that works. All right. Any questions on church structure or benevolence or any of that kind of stuff before we move on to the next question?
I
Go
do
ahead.
want to state that in the future, this is a meeting like this is intended to occur every year, probably in like August-ish.
Yes,
So
that is correct.
that is our church calendar year will go from summer to summer.
Kristen's just talking. We're all
This
good.
is the part I was supposed to say that I forgot. So in the past, so we did the vision letter in February. And the idea is that we would write the vision letter and then have the annual meeting and have it be presented when it's like fresh. We didn't do that. So going forward, the eldership team is going to write a new one in December. And it's going to be 6 months vision. And then from there on forward, we're going to write one in August for the annual year, and we're going to have an annual meeting that will be fresh after that, so that it won't be retroactive in the future.
All right. So our church strength initially was not organization, if you can't tell. But we are getting there and committed to making this happen as a group. So I think we're figuring some stuff out. If you have any ideas on how to make that better, we would love to hear it. So next up is Seth to give a kind of a brief update on CUCC.
Yeah, we're just all kind of figuring this out as we go. So yeah, So you guys have probably heard a lot about, we're talking about UCC and potentially some kind of partnership with them, and that is something that everybody has a lot of questions on, including everybody on leadership, right? We're looking at, there's a range of possibilities that go anywhere from we'll partner with them for some community events or things like the Quill or outreach type things, anywhere to on the table is a full merger with this, and we would come together to create a new organization between the 2 congregations. With Ella as the pastor, of course. So there's a lot of possibility, there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're kind of trying to figure this out. We would appreciate feedback from anybody that has thoughts, but the main idea is we don't want anybody that is part of our group to feel like we're leaving them behind or anything. Everybody's included on this journey, right? We want everybody to come with us, whatever it looks like. It might just be one of the potentials that was thrown out there is we rent space from them, and maybe we'll do a potluck with them once a month or something like that. But we'll rent space from them and have service there instead of here at our top, right? As 2 separate, we're just essentially just renting from them. And so, yeah, there's a bunch of possibilities. And I know that there's hesitation, especially they're kind of a aging congregation, which is some of their interest in us, but also like that brings up some uncertainty, right? Because a lot of us may not have had great relationships with older Christians in the past, right? And so there's hesitation, understandably, but we found them to be a very welcoming body, and so we want to yeah, I think that's kind of what we wanted to say. We don't know a lot, and we want everybody to feel like we're letting y'all know kind of what's going on, what's being discussed. We're not trying to pull anything over on anybody, right? Like, we want to do all this as out in the open as possible. And so if anybody has any thoughts, excuse me, thoughts or questions or comments, any kind of feedback, come up to me or anybody else on the leadership team, and we can talk with you. I'm sure I, for one, as a external processor, like, I don't know what I'm thinking until I talk about it with somebody. So I would appreciate having this conversation with anybody that wants to have it with me. So, yeah, I think that's it.
All right, and I would like to reiterate with that, I think my 2 bullet points on CUCC are there are no foregone conclusions, so there's nothing we are committed to or going to do. We could just say do nothing.
To a service with them next
You're right, we are committed to a service with them next Sunday, and that is 2 Sundays from now, and that is it. And then, what was my other point there that I wanted to say? And that, I think anything that is going to happen quite slowly. So I think we'll see anything coming from a long ways away. The goal is to be able to see the pitch coming in and be able to knock it out of the park if we do decide to do something with it, if that makes sense for my baseball analogy, because I'm a baseball guy. So with that, I think, unless there are any questions in the room for people who can't make lunch, going once, going twice, we will end here. Yes.
Sorry, you were gonna mention about, leadership. If anyone is.
Oh, you're right. I was going to mention that. So we at Refuge Church have an open leadership policy. So basically what that means is that if you're interested in leadership, we want to have you guys here. If you're not interested in leadership, we are happy you guys are here. So the idea being that there's no like qualifications or prerequisites to being on leadership at Refuge. Essentially, if you're interested in kind of the eldership position that I described, talk to Elle or anybody else that's an elder as well. And they'd be happy to have a conversation with you about what that would look like and what kind of the commitment is, how often they meet, and what that would be a part of. If you're interested in board of directors, I think they'd be happy to have that same conversation with you. The one thing I didn't mention is I am technically a deacon. I think we're just calling that basically the people who want to help but don't want the formal commitment of being on leadership, if that makes sense. And so that is me, maybe Lou, we'll see. I'm somebody who loves to just like hang out and be a part of stuff. And so is being a deacon would be a part of that as well.
It's
So
essentially a commitment to be a helper.